Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Kowalis, and I'm recording this series of videos mainly for myself. I'll give you a little bit of background on what these videos are all about, why I'm doing it. But the main reason is because I just finished writing a book called Cursing at Mountains. It took years to write this thing, trying to balance between a full-time job, family, and just other responsibilities. And the book is finally finished. And I realized that finishing the book was the easy part. The hard part now is figuring out how to get this thing published. And I have lots of ideas for other books that I'd like to write down the road. There's a couple that I've started working on. And when I get to this point with those books, I want to be able to not have to relearn all this stuff that I'll probably forget because you do it once and then at that point, when years go by, you forgot what you did. So these videos are mainly to help me remember what I did. And hey, if something works along the way, then that'll be great. I'll be able to record this journey and figure out what in the world I did to get this thing out there. But to start off, I'll just give you a little bit of background on where I'm at, and then I'll walk you through each step that I go through. And a disclaimer, like I'm not a pro. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of jumping in here and we're seeing what happens. And I'm going to share with you what I do so you can also learn from my mistakes. So up to this point, like I said, book is done. I hired an editor, which I just did a search online for editors, found a couple of professional organizations, and then searched for editors that worked on books similar to the one I've written and that live within the area. That way, if we needed to get together, I could get together. So I found my editor. I'll show you here who I ended up using. So I ended up using Ted Olson here. So Ted was my editor. I'll just give you a quick overview of how I found Ted. So I just went to Google and I did a search for freelance editors. And I ended up looking at some of these editorial freelance association, just professional associations of freelancers. And a lot of these, if you go to their websites, they usually have like a directory or a list somewhere. And you can essentially search that. I think one of them allowed me to filter by area and different topics. And what I ended up doing was identifying, it was like 5 editors that I thought might be a good fit, reached out to them, asked them to do a sample edit of my work, which most editors will do. Like you send in the first 10 pages or 30 pages or 1 page or whatever they request. And then they'll go through and do a sample edit so you can get a sense of what they provide. So like I said, found 5 editors within Utah, sent an email out to all of them, a copy of my work that they requested, and then I looked at what they had provided. And in the end, I ended up finding out that Ted did what I thought was the most thorough job. And on top of that, he's in my son's bagpipe band, which I found out later. Bagpipe bands are really big. There's like 40, 50 members of it. And my son had just started, and I'm at the Scottish festival, and I run into Ted. Somebody's like, Brandon Kowalis. I'm like, what? Oh, hey, and it's Ted. So that kind of sealed the deal. But I think for me, like having somebody local is really nice. That way you can touch base a little easier, especially if you want to meet in person. So found the editor, worked with Ted over the last several months to massively modify my book. So we went through, this was originally like 320 pages, 25 pages long, and we knocked it down to 250 pages, which is really, really challenging because you spend so much time working on it, but it's such a necessary step to go through and cut out stuff. The book is so much more concise, it reads better, so I'd highly recommend hiring an editor. And they can, when you send them the sample work, they'll also give you a quote for about how much they charge. You can do some research out there. There's a lot of information on kind of standard rates and that kind of thing about how much you can expect to pay. But Ted was a great deal for what he provided, which was super awesome. So anyway, also I'll give you one other background piece. So one of the things, like it used to be back in the day that you would send your manuscript off to publishers and you just kind of cross your fingers and wait and hope maybe they select your manuscript. Nowadays, most publishers like won't even talk to authors, period. Like they'll only work through literary agents. And so I ended up going to also I did some searches for like literary agencies. I found a couple of directories and some other resources out there and just looked up several agencies, mainly looking in New York and LA since a lot of the big publishers are there. And I sent out probably like 50 queries to literary agents and was rejected by all of them, or I just never heard back. And part of that is because usually like the literary agents aren't going to represent you unless you're like a guarantee that they're going to make money off of your book. So unless you have an ultra large social media following, or you are like some kind of a famous person or well-known researcher, scientist, or whatever that has some kind of new super innovative thing that aligns with trends out there and things that people are interested in or that's in the news, you're probably not going to get a literary agent. So after trying that, and I did reach out, there were a couple of publishers I found that accepted direct queries and manuscripts, sent it to them, didn't get anything back other than a rejection. And so now we're going with the self-publishing route, which I've heard that a lot of big authors now are even exploring that kind of on their own. The self-publishing, they can make a lot more money, and there are benefits to a publisher, but there are also benefits to self-publishing. And if you've already got a huge following and you're famous and you release something on Amazon self-publishing, you can make a whole lot more money. So there are benefits. So I decided really my only option at this point is to self-publish. So we're going to figure this out. This is, like I said, the first video, and each step that I take, I'll record screen capture of what I'm doing and go from there. That way, like I said, down the road, when I get to publish my second book and I've forgotten everything, I can go back to these videos and remember exactly what I did. And if something worked out well, then I'll share it with the world and you'll get some ideas for how you can also self-publish your book. The self-publishing part is super easy, like trying to get the book published. The hard thing is like getting people to buy it. So we're going to be exploring that as well, not just how to put it on Amazon, but how to actually get people to notice it and buy it. So I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to jump in and figure this out. And hopefully you'll find something that's useful to you. So let's go ahead and jump in and start seeing what we can do.